Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Loaded Clips and welcome back to the channel for another video. Today's video is a video I've been meaning to make for a while, but I've just been kind of busy and putting it off. But we are finally here. Today's video is going to be me. I'm going to be discussing the suppressor that I bought. Talking a little bit about why I chose this suppressor, but more importantly, discussing the process of getting a suppressor, and some important things that you need to know if you are planning on buying a suppressor for yourself. I've had some people kind of ask me, like, how do you go about buying a suppressor? How long does it take to get a suppressor? What suppressor should I get? These are all questions I'm going to try to address with this video, so hopefully you guys find this useful and informative. Definitely, while you're here, if you do enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like on there, drop a comment or subscribe. All of that helps out the channel, helps us grow, and helps more people see the videos so that I can continue doing this for you guys. Definitely having a lot of fun, and I'm very appreciative of the support you guys have been giving thus far. So definitely stick around. Drop that like on the video and let's get right into it. So for starters, I'm gonna let you guys see here. You guys have seen this gun already if you've been watching, but if you're new, this is my SBR build. This is an 11.5-inch custom AR-15 that I put together myself throughout the course of maybe a year or so, all in. And on here, for the suppressor that I have posted here, this is the Aero Precision Lahar 30. This is their mid-length suppressor, and the reason I went with this is a couple of reasons. One reason is because I already knew going into it that I'm going to have multiple suppressors. So I already know I'm going to go through this many times. I want many suppressors for many different purposes. So for my first one, I wanted something that I could kind of experiment with. This suppressor offered me the flexibility of, testing it out on some different guns and different calibers, just seeing how it performed, what I liked, what I didn't like about it, which will kind of give me some better information going forward to my next purchase. And secondly, being that it was just a very good deal for the money. This is a very affordable suppressor. Suppressors, typically are pretty expensive by comparison, but you can get this suppressor in the $400 range if you're looking in the right places. So definitely a good value for the money. Those were my leading decisions in getting the suppressor. I'm actually going to take it off here so I can have it out for the video. But those were my main factors that I considered when I was buying this suppressor. I had already done a lot of research on suppressors beforehand, so I kind of had that knowledge going into it. I was just a matter of deciding which one I actually wanted to purchase. Now, if you're watching this video, you may or may not already know a little bit about suppressors. But you may be asking yourselves, how do I go about buying my first suppressor? What do I need to know before I buy my first suppressor? And I'm going to address those things to hopefully help you out with that decision. Today in this country, in its current state, buying a suppressor is a bit of a tedious process. It takes, in some cases, nearly a year for you to go through with the entire process. So it definitely turns a lot of people off from taking that first step in buying a suppressor. I'm going to try and make this as easy to understand as possible, and just go over 3 basic things that you should consider when you are buying a suppressor. So the first thing that you're going to want to consider is, what is the purpose of you owning this suppressor? And it's very basic, but it's very important that you establish what exactly your purpose is in owning the suppressor and using the suppressor, because that's gonna tell you what you need to buy ultimately, and can prevent you from wasting a lot of time and money in going through this process. Perfect example would be, let's say you're somebody who goes hunting maybe a couple times a year, and you only are looking to have a suppressor to throw on one of your hunting rifles to reduce your sound signature while you're out on your hunts. That's a very specific purpose, and can help you make a decision in suppressors that can narrow that down for you, because you don't necessarily need to get a suppressor that's super high end or super versatile that you can switch between different guns, because you only really want to use it for this one specific purpose. That can save you some money on and prevent you from overspending or even underspending in some cases. So just knowing whatever your purpose is in buying a suppressor is really the first step and most important thing that you need to establish before even going forward. The second thing you're going to want to consider is what type of suppressor do you want to buy. Now there's two general types of suppressors that you can buy. On one hand you have your dedicated caliber suppressors, and on the other hand you have your 30 caliber suppressors. Now starting on the dedicated caliber, obviously as the name would suggest, those suppressors are dedicated for a specific caliber, meaning 5.56, 9mm, 45 ACP, whatever the caliber those suppressors are dedicated for, you can only use the suppressor on that specific caliber. There's no flexibility between 300 blackout and 5.56 or vice versa. On the other hand, you have your 30 caliber suppressors, which are 30 caliber in size, and the main benefit you get from those is they're a lot more flexible. You can run a variety of different guns and calibers through these suppressors because there's multiple different rounds that are 30 caliber, as well as under 30 caliber that you can also pair with the suppressor. That can give you a lot more flexibility versus if you were to go with a dedicated caliber. And determining this step and figuring out which type of suppressor you want ultimately does fall back to step number one, which is what is your purpose? If you're looking for something that is just going to be like a range toy, and maybe you don't have a really big budget to buy a bunch of suppressors, and you want something that you can maybe throw on one gun one day, throw on a different gun another day, and just kind of move it around your collection and try out different guns. Based on that, it would not make sense for you to buy a dedicated caliber suppressor because you want a little bit more flexibility. So I would probably recommend you go with a 30 caliber suppressor like this, Aero Precision Lahar 30, or many others like it, because that's going to give you a lot more flexibility in what different guns and calibers that you can use it on. Now, if you have a more specific use case, like the hunting example that I mentioned earlier, maybe something like a dedicated caliber suppressor makes more sense for you because obviously you're going to be limited to that one caliber, but with dedicated caliber suppressors, you do get a little bit more performance since those suppressors are specifically made for that caliber. And if you really want to hone in on just that one specific use, then it just may make the most sense for you to get that suppressor that's going to do the job you want it to do and do it very well, and you not having to worry about it. So that's step 1 and 2, figuring out your purpose and figuring out which type of suppressor that you want to fit that. Now the third thing you're going to want to consider is what type of mounting system do you want to use for your suppressor. Now, there's two options. The first option is the most commonly, referred to option, is just a direct thread. And what that means is you have a suppressor and you have a gun, which assumingly has a threaded barrel, otherwise you're kind of wasting your time. And you just simply screw the suppressor directly onto the threaded barrel of the gun, and that's it. There's no muzzle device, there's no flash hider, there's no nothing, just threaded barrel, suppressor, screw it on there, you're done. Obviously that's the most simplest way of mounting the suppressor to the gun, and the most cost-effective way of mounting the suppressor. There are its drawbacks. For example, let's say you have a 30 caliber suppressor with a direct thread. You can direct thread this suppressor onto any myriad of 30 caliber barrels, but if you want to use this 30 caliber suppressor on a 5.56 gun, well, you can't do that because the threads on the 5.56 gun are much smaller than the 30 caliber gun, so it won't screw on there. It's going to be too big and you won't be able to use that, even though the suppressor itself can be used on 5.56 guns. That brings us to our second option of mounting, which is a QD or quick detach system that you can attach to a different variety of suppressors. Using mine as an example, I have a Silencer Co. Mount on this one. This is a Silencer Co. ASR QD mount. And if I unscrew it here, you'll see it screws right into the bottom of the suppressor. And this is basically just kind of like an adapter that allows you to then mount the suppressor onto a muzzle device rather than directly on the barrel itself. So you'll notice on both of my guns here, I have a flash hider here that has some threads on the muzzle device, and I have also one on this one as well. Now this one is a 300 Blackout, which is a 30 caliber gun, and this one is 5.56, which is not 30 caliber. However, since I have both of these have muzzle devices from a Silencer Co., which are a part of this system, the threads on the muzzle device themselves are the exact same size. So as long as I have my QD mount attached to my suppressor, I can mount it to both of these guns with no problem, even though they're different calibers. And literally all you have to do is just take your gun, throw your suppressor there, and screw it on. Quick and easy. Now obviously that's very convenient for if you want to use one suppressor on multiple different guns. However, the downside to that is you are going to have to invest a lot more money into the QD system and the subsequent muzzle devices that you're going to need to put on each gun for that to work properly. Now granted, that is cheaper than if you were to buy multiple different suppressors. However, it is another cost that you're going to have to keep in mind when you're making your decision. And once you have those three things figured out, it's really just a matter of figuring out which brand and model of suppressor that you want to purchase. That is totally up to you. I'm not here to try and tell you one brand is better than the other. I'll leave that to you guys to do your own research and figure out which ones you like and which company that you would kind of want to invest your money into. Because at the end of the day, that's really a matter of preference, and I'm just here to kind of give you the basics to where you would even get started. Now, once you've made your decision and you know which suppressor you want to purchase and you want to start the process, what do you do? Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is, obviously you've identified the suppressor. You're going to want to go to your local shop or your favorite online shop, such as 3dgunman.com, shameless plug. But wherever that may be, you're going to pick out your suppressor and you're going to buy it. You're going to take out your card, put in your information, spend the money, buy the suppressor. But once you purchase that suppressor, you don't get to go home with it yet. The next steps would be you have to start filing paperwork with the ATF to legally transfer that suppressor over to you. Now, suppressors right now are currently restricted items or NFA items that are on an NFA registry. So you can't go in a store and buy one and leave with it the same day. There is an additional background and application process that they have to go through to make sure that you're allowed to have this, and then go through the process of registering it to you and approving you to own it. Is it a hassle? Is it a lot? Is it annoying? Absolutely, but that is what you have to do, so I want to make sure that you guys know that. Now, the form you're going to fill out with the ATF is called a Form 4, and that will basically collect all of your information, your name, your address, your personal information, fingerprints, as well as a photo of yourself. That gets mailed off to the ATF, or you can do it electronically via e-forms. The ATF then will review the application. Current time estimate as of right now is about 8 to 9 months for them to review and approve an application. And once that is done, they will notify you that your application has been approved, and then you can then go to your dealer and pick up the suppressor and take it home with you. But we're not done yet, because once you have that suppressor in your hands, there are a couple of restrictions that you need to be aware of. Restriction number 1 is this suppressor must remain in your possession at all times. There's a common misconception that if you buy a gun, that gun is registered to you. That is not the case. Guns are registered via their serial numbers, however, they are not registered to specific people. Meaning, if someone were to look up the serial number to a gun that you own, it will not come back as, hey, John owns this gun down the street. That type of registry does not exist. However, for NFA items such as suppressors, these are registered to specific people. So if you run a serial number for an NFA item, that will come back to a specific person. Therefore, only the person that this is registered to is allowed to be in possession of this item. You are not allowed to lend this to a friend, let them borrow it, take it to the range. You have to be present whenever this item is being used, and it cannot be stored at any other location other than your residence or business if you do have a business. Again, is that annoying? Is that kind of pointless? I think so, but again, just here to give you the facts. Second thing would be if you are planning on traveling out of state or moving out of state, you do have to notify the ATF that you are going to be traveling or moving. There's a form you have to fill out. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I'll put it on the screen if I remember. But you do have to notify the ATF that you are traveling, the dates that you are traveling, or if you are moving, you have to notify them where you're moving to, and they have to approve that prior to you actually relocating the suppressor or NFA item. So those are the most important things that you're going to need to know. Hopefully this video wasn't too long and it gave you everything you guys need to know about purchasing and owning a suppressor. If you feel like there's something I missed, definitely feel free to leave it in the comments below. Or if there's something else you'd like to add to this as well, go ahead and throw it in the comments. I do read all comments, so if you have anything else for me that you want me to see, or any questions that you want to ask that weren't answered here, leave that in the comments and I will respond to you. Aside from that, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. Covers all the basics that you really need to know about how to go about purchasing your first suppressor, what you need to do, and the process of owning a suppressor. Like I said, anything else, leave a comment down below. Definitely also leave a like on the video while you're here if you enjoyed. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Be safe, be smart, be blessed, and I'll see y'all in the next one.